Yeah, we're gonna have to investigate you, buddy. When it comes to superheroes, there's always that question about their stance on killing. Do or do they not execute the bad guys, and if so, why? Unless you're Arkham Batman who does everything to a motherfucker but kill them, bro literally be hurling propane tanks at thugs and has the audacity to say, "Don't worry, Gordon, he's fine." It's usually made clear on where a hero stands on the matter, especially if you were the lead on one of the big three networks, as those networks like to keep things child-friendly and lighthearted for the most part. Something like this would be just a bit too much to have take a prominent stance on your action cartoon. Unless your name was Ben Tennyson. Whether or not Ben has a rule about killing is a major discussion point in the fandom, mainly when it comes to his UAF iterations. Even before then, however, Ben has multiple instances where you could make the case that he is indeed intending to kill his enemies. Outside of The Last Airbender, Ben 10 is like the only cartoon I recall making the idea of his protagonist taking a life the central part of a story, with the topic becoming a hot one due to Ben's attitudes towards dealing with his friend Kevin during the Ultimate Kevin arc. It's the most prominent instance in the show we see Ben genuinely talk about taking a life, and funny enough, it revolves around his best friend Kevin, not someone like his arch enemy Vilgax or the villain prior Agrigor. Ben all around has a weird track record with his stance and approach to killing. So today I want to take a closer peek at it to see if I can figure out exactly where Ben stands on that side of the line, and if killing or not killing suits his character. Ben's actions in Ultimate Alien may be what caused this discussion, but Ben in Classic also has like tons of questionable moments. They of course aren't as upfront about it in the classic series since it's a more lighthearted show. Also, you know, Ben's like a 10-year-old, and having a 10-year-old flat out talk about killing somebody would have had this show sent to Adult Swim in a heartbeat. Now, Ben never actively shows any murderous intent unless it's against JT and Cash.
Is it just me, or was that thing smiling when it smashed our robots together?
But he does get super violent against many non-organic grunts he squares off against. Him beating down on non-human goons with a bit more force is just a cartoon staple though. There's tons of action cartoons where the characters will tear through enemies that if they were human would get your show hit with the TVMA rating for sure. Ben's aggressive combat style is more so just how the artists and animators decided to craft entertaining action, rather than it being proof of him being a ruthless hero, because he has a handful of moments in the show that show him to be against taking a life. He stopped the Kraken from killing that main shitty biologist guy in the Kraken episode, and Kevin, funny enough, in Classic, points out how a good guy like Ben doesn't have the balls to finish off a bad guy like him.
Good guys never have the guts to finish guys like me.
Oh boy, if only he knew how wrong he was. So while Ben in Classic really shows any thirst for killing and sometimes even stands against it, there are still a handful of moments that make you question how fully against it he is. The main instances of evaluating Ben's potential of having a no-kill role in Classic comes into play whenever one of his main antagonists are involved. Not surprising that this is the case, since anytime he crosses paths with the Vilgax, Ghost Freak, even the Forever King, the stakes were always high, which is why it's surprising that Ben never explicitly pondered the thought of taking them out for good, especially Vilgax. Like, he should have been on a sushi platter a long time ago. In the season 1 finale, Ben does blow Vilgax shit smooth off with Max's anti-Vilgax gun that Vilgax does tank, but it ends up trapping him in his chip, causing him to blow up, where Ben believed him to be dead, as the next time they see each other in Back with a Vengeance, he was surprised that both him and Kevin were alive. Now, you can make the argument that Ben wasn't going for the kill at that moment. Instead, he was just pulling the Bale Batman special of, "I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you," which, I mean, you know, it's a fair take, but like, he thought bro was dead. In Secret of the Omnitrix, when Ben gets access to Waybig, he literally picks Vilgax up and baseball pitches him into space. And while it is a funny ass thing for Ben to do, this to me feels more like a fuck you a-hole type of act instead of a flat out murder attempt. I can't give him that same pass though when it comes to Camille's parents, Ghost Freak, the Mycelium, or the Big Tick. Ben knew Zascare's weakness was sunlight, so he proceeded to willfully engulf him in sunlight. And yes, Zascare does survive this, but when Ghost Freak returns, Dr. Victor says that Ben thought he had destroyed Zascare.
It is where you believe you destroyed my master. You were wrong.
So yeah, I'm saying Ben thought he killed him. Same goes for the Mycelium, you know, the giant fungus from Camp Fear that Ben killed with some powder Max gave him for his Atlas foot. If you just look at how that thing went out and the fact that like it never returns or is referenced, it's safe to say that Ben killed that thing. During the episode Big Fat Alien Wedding, when fighting Camille's Lenopan parents, Ben's Heat Blast ends the fight by completely hardening the two Lenopans. What makes it so crazy is that Camille sees Ben do this to her parents and she just like fucking jokes about it.
A little big for the wedding cake.
Shorty, your parents are fucking dead. In the -10 finale, Upchuck eats his sub energy and takes down the Forever King with an explosion that ends up taking off half of Mount Rushmore and seemingly vaporize Driscoll. And yes, he does come back in Ultimate Alien. I just don't understand how he just didn't die though. Like, that armor must be something fucking serious to tank a blast like that. As much as I like to, I'm not gonna count this against Ben, as even though the show makes it seem like Driscoll is dead, the dialogue from Max and Ben say otherwise. So just chalk this up to Ben going overboard and not thinking too much about it. However, none of those moments are more egregious than what Ben does to the big tick. He jumps inside of the tick and we see him destroy it from the inside, decimating its organs, heart, and bones. I think that alone is all the evidence you need to assume that, yeah, this kid is a fucking psychopath. Early on in Ben's superhero career, you can make the argument that he only acts to kill his villains when the stakes are high, sometimes in both direct and indirect fashion. But how does this change when he gets older? The decision to age up Ben in the sequel series is still one of my favorite things the franchise did, especially since along with his growth in age, the show decided to grow up as well. The UAF era is the darkest and most mature out of the 3 eras of Ben 10. These shows tackle some very heavy subjects, and most fans believe that they tackled them well. So when you see them start to fumble, it becomes a talking point. The hybrid invasion arc is what I and many consider Ben 10's peak. It excels at everything you could ask for in a story arc, though there is one glaring issue. The trio find out in episode 6 that the dead aliens being controlled by xenocytes. Ben is able to cure Ken, Gwen's brother, who was taken under control of the xenocyte, proving that these are turning humans into alien puppets. And you think since the team knows that, they go easy on them, right? Right?
Fight back, nigga! Fight back, nigga! Fight back!
Before you could defend their brutality by saying the D and aliens are just creatures so the show can get away with it, like every other show does, the show makes it known to them that there are humans that are under the D and alien skin, yet they continue their aggressive methods against them. Like, they drop a building on some of these niggas, dude. Of course, this is still a kid's show, even though it is a bit mature than other ones. There's still a high chance that none of these D and aliens actually die, but it really confuses things like so much. Ben knows that he can cure them. He did it to Ken, and yeah, it does take a lot of energy out of the Omnitrix, but after he does it to Ken, he just doesn't try to do it again until the near end and finale of the arc. It takes Darkstar of all people to remind bro that he has the power to cure them.
These are human beings, Michael. They're under alien control. We take them down, not out.
You're a fool, Ben. What would you do? Cure them?
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Ben, my guy, you found that out in episode 6 of the show. It's getting kind of hard to defend you, big bro, and it's not gonna get any easier. Ultimate Alien is where this conversation is most prominent due to the Ultimate Kevin arc. The arc where Kevin goes insane due to absorbing ultimation to stop Agregor, and Ben becomes hell-bent on killing him. The biggest criticism in this arc is that Ben just jumps to the conclusion of killing Kevin when we never really see him move like this anywhere prior in the show. He doesn't act like this against Vilgax or even the Hybrid last series. The closest we ever see Ben act like this was against the previous villain Agregor, when he full sended an ass whooping on him, where Ben intended to finish him off if Gwen didn't intervene. Still, that doesn't compare to Ben in this arc, because once he accepts the reality of killing Kevin at the end of Nora Iron Bar's Cage, he starts to move different. I'm talking using the Plumber Academy and his rookies to soften up Kevin for an easy kill, challenging Gwen in both arguments, and a fight where he uses way big against her to prove his point on taking out Kevin, going around to interrogate the Knights and Volcanus about Kevin's whereabouts like he's the fucking Batman, even telling Grandpa Max that he believes putting Kevin down is what he has to do, and he's giving it real thought and already came to his conclusion. In the iconic showdown they have, Ben uses Ultimate Echo to take Kevin down, literally using a move called Sonic Doom, just to show that like he is not fucking around. He gets moments, and I mean moments, away from killing Kevin, and if not for Gwen stepping in, I wholeheartedly believe Ben would have done it, no question. In another famous episode, The Purge, Ultimate Alien once again throws him in a position that brings Ben's killing into question when the Forever Knights are going around purging alien life on Earth. The Knights kill a well-established character, Pierce Wheels, in the opening of this episode, and I feel like if Ben knew that, he probably wouldn't have just monologued to Driscoll and instead actually drove his ultimate spider monkey leg through his fucking shoulder. Still, Ben just makes a serious yet believable threat to the Knights that everyone in their brother has heard, where he states that if they hunt any more aliens, they'll regret it for their very short lives. Watching this moment always gives me chills, dude. It's so fucking peak. This and the Ultimate Kevin incident are the strongest pieces of evidence the show give that Ben may not have a no-kill rule at all like other heroes. However, this is the most concrete evidence the show gives going forward, as the most Omniverse gives us is an enraged 11-year-old Ben destroying Malware. However, I don't believe Ben meant to kill Malware in this instance. He went in for a punch in his human form, and the Omnitrix just so happened to overload him. But I will say it was a justified murder, because if someone took your favorite thing in the world right in front of you and laughed it off, they'd be on the top of your hit list. In the Showdown 2-parter, both Malware and Asmus state that the heroes assumed they had destroyed Malware for good. Ben, once again this time with the help of feedback, takes down Malware, and though it's hard to tell exactly what happens to him, Malware just becomes like this stone husk of himself. Vilgax and Albedo end up stealing his husk to repurpose it into a suit for Vilgax, but it seems to have no sentience and is just a suit of armor. So Ben technically kills Malware. Yeah, he kills him twice. Ben also vaporizes the Scarab for like the third or fourth time, but this time he leaves a huge ball of light in the area, so he seemingly can't be revived, meaning that yeah, Ben kills him once and for all. I say with uncertainty though, because the Scarab's like a cockroach. The guy like never dies. In the Saturdays crossover, Ben absorbs all of BV Argos's energy that I believe is actually like life energy, and afterwards Argos just falls to the ground, and that's it. We don't see him taken into Plumber custody, base, or anything. So kind of like the Forever King before his UA appearance, it's up to interpretation on if Ben slimed out Argos. You know, he killed the Saturday's big bad. Lastly, there's the final big bad of Omniverse, Mount Truant, who at the end of the show gets destroyed after Ben fires the big bang at him. Like, he explodes and all of his pieces scatter on the ground. Though Paradox comes in to reveal that Mount Truant is like stuck in a time loop that endlessly repeats. So does Ben truly kill him? It's fucking confusing. To be honest, we'll just ignore Mount Truant since, like, I mean, the fandom does that already. Being the least series of the 4 Prime shows, I'm not surprised that Omniverse doesn't dive much into those seeds about Ben's stance on killing that we saw in Ultimate Alien. There's still one more scene I haven't looked at for this conversation. In the classic episode Ben 10,000, arguably a top 5 episode of classic, where Ben meets his future self, in the episode there's a scene where Ben 10K says to young Ben and Gwen,
"What about Vilgax?"
Last I saw of him, I left him in pieces. It wasn't pretty for anyone. Enough said.
I've seen fans tie this Ben 10K future in with the Goodbye and Good Riddance What If episode, where in that episode, Ben gets his secret identity revealed, but more importantly, we see Vilgax get blown up. At best, he's like probably put in critical condition, and at worst, the motherfucker's dead. It's a neat theory that I sometimes subscribe to. However, the way 10K talks, it sounds like he himself ended Vilgax. So it's possible to believe that Ben in the future has actually killed, considering the idea of killing more than his younger / prime self, especially when it comes to his more serious threats. However, if that is the case, it's kind of weird how in that episode is that if he did kill Vilgax back in the past, why wouldn't he do it again? Like, he comes back and he just leaves him frozen in the lake. Like, you think he just end his existence and kill him now since he's done it before. Overall, if you were to come up to me on the street and ask me, do you believe Ben kills? I would respond to you with it just depends. Ben to me does have a rule when it comes to killing, and that he will most definitely kill if he himself deems it necessary, which applying that to other moments in the show make his past actions, at least to me, make a lot more sense. Ben had just got his ass handed to him by Agregor throughout season 2 of Ultimate Alien, to the point where the bad guy almost won. After that, it made sense that Ben doesn't want to make that same mistake again of letting the villain cause all this damage, so he seeks out to kill Kevin before he ends up causing any of that chaos. The Scarab personally put Gwen in danger in his first appearance, and unlike other villains, he didn't just want the Omnitrix from Ben, he wanted like Ben in general, making his threat to Ben a lot more fearful. So I mean, like, yeah, we gotta kill his ass. The Big Tick and the Mycelium were going to destroy the planet, so in that case you have no other choice really, and Malware is Ben's most personal villain. He took something from Ben that couldn't be replaced, so in order to stop Malware from causing any more pain to anyone, yeah, Ben turned him into a fucking husk. He killed him. But in all those same sentiments, I don't believe Ben looks to kill. He spared plenty of his enemies, even his worst enemy of them all, Vilgax.
Say the word. I will. That's right. You do.
You can see that same will again in Ultimate Kevin's first real episode, as he doesn't immediately fight Kevin to kill him. It's only at the end of the episode where he comes to the conclusion that Kevin may be a lost cause.
I think we're past that. I think we have to put him down.
What's that supposed to mean?
And I think that suits his character more than leaning heavily one way. Like, he's not Batman with the firm reasons to stand against the thought of killing, nor is he someone like Wolverine who would just, kill for fun and shit. If Ben believes a situation can be handled without extreme violence, then that's how he'll try to handle it. However, Ben's main goal as a hero is to protect all forms of life, the universe, in fact, against anyone who threatens it. And while he does carry immense power, sometimes there's a threat that may be too much, meaning there's no other way to handle him but the extreme. That's my take, at least. released, and I would love to hear what you all think. Do you think Ben actively has a strict no kill rule, or do you think he looks to kill his enemies? If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Also, hype the video if you're watching on mobile, as it really helps it hit the algorithm. By the time you're watching this, the second chapter of my Ben 10 fan comic, Absolute Ben 10, has been released, so check that out in the description below. And until next time, this has been Dan, the Boy Wonder, signing out. Peace.